What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. So Evelyn's kind of a champion that's always really struggled to sort of find her place in the game, or really just her identity as a character outside of the fact that she's kind of just always stealthed. You know, considering her models, like her other visual aspects and all that sorts of stuff, they're all really kind of just outdated. Well, that makes her a perfect fit for a full visual gameplay update by Riot in the future, and it turns out that she's actually second on the list for probably the most requested updates, only behind Urgot. So as always, we dug up to find some info about what we can expect once her future rework releases. And of course, she is getting a rework in the future. For those of you who don't know, it's likely going to be coming around 2017. And if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button and let's get started. So again, in terms of the actual rework timeline, she's on the list for getting a full update next year, and Riot have said that it's pretty unlikely that we'll go through 2017, finish 2017 without seeing her update. So the update teams that are dedicated to working on individual champion updates, there's two right now, and they're working on Galio and Warwick, but from what we've read and what has been said, it sounds like one of those teams, or both of them, are going to be moving on to Urgot and Evelynn respectively once the Galio and Warwick updates are finished. So full updates usually end up with a champion receiving, brand new lore to go along with new splash arts, new models, all sorts of stuff, which essentially comes down to the fact that right now, Evelynn doesn't really have a strong narrative or a really defining backstory or theme or anything else really. From a gameplay perspective, Evelynn's actually kind of a little bit of a special case though, because the thing is that she's actually going to be receiving some minor changes in the upcoming Assassin update as well, which is something that we haven't entirely seen before in champions that are set up for full updates, at least not yet. The problems that Riot want to fix with Evelynn mostly is that her backstory is a lot more that of an assassin, but it doesn't entirely mesh together with her gameplay. Evelynn's a lot more of like a diver or like a skirmisher that kind of just likes to get into the middle of a fight and just juke it out with people, rather than more of like a stealthy assassin sort of champion that kind of sneaks around and picks people off. It's actually pretty unlikely that she's going to be staying as a diver sort of champion though. Riot Reeve 3 did mention though that he could actually see Evelynn as being maybe a skirmisher with her own unique twist on the archetype, so it seems like they are maybe exploring possibilities for now, but with Evelynn's lore saying that she's meant to be this legendary assassin, as well as multiple Rioter comments referring to it, it's almost certain that Riot is going to steer her playstyle towards becoming a lot more of a proper, more traditional assassin sort of champion, rather than that of a fighter or skirmisher, which means she's going to be faster, more mobile, she's also going to be squishier, and she's going to be way more dangerous, which kind of makes sense considering she's meant to fill that sort of like femme fatale sort of archetype character almost in League. And this would also explain why she's getting some changes in the Assassin roster update as well in the future, since if that's the direction Riot want to take with her, then she can definitely do with some quality of life tweaks in the meantime until they can hold out for her full-on rework. So most of the clues for what her reworked gameplay are going to look like comes from Riot Meddler actually, who gives a little bit of insight on the League of Legends official forums. So he said that Evelynn was always really intended to be like an assassin champion, but instead of sort of the kind of guy that just runs straight in for kills, she was meant to play more of like flanker, with the idea that you would have to manage her ranges so that you could time your engage perfectly without being spotted, and then you pull off that perfect flank and just get your assassination. So for a long time, the best way to play Evelynn though, in the meantime, has been to go pretty tanky, play her as like a skirmisher almost, and that creates a lot more of a bigger disconnect with the core theme that Riot in general just isn't happy with. The biggest problem they have going into the rework is that she's actually in a pretty stable and honestly balanced state at the moment actually, since she's fairly difficult to play well, but she does work really well if you do, and even at the highest level she's not super overpowered though. So the only time Evelynn is kinda bad is when she's in the hand of, less experienced players who tend to build her with full damage instead of opting for those tanky stats, which, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's totally fine to have champions that are harder to play, but it's a clear indication that Evelynn isn't entirely functioning the way players expect her to, if that makes sense. Since it's pretty much confirmed that Riot does want to make her a true assassin sort of champion, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how they can change her kit to fit the role better, and there's quite a few predictions we can make that I believe are fairly obvious that are going to happen. So Evelynn's design inherently is a little bit unhealthy. I mean, even if it is reasonably balanced in terms of whether or not it's actually good, and the fact that she's able to bypass wards and flank people without them really being able to do anything about it except by pinks can be pretty frustrating to play against a lot of the time. Evelynn's theme as well is someone who kind of, appears out of the shadows to assassinate a target and then slips away and backs off. But right now that design space is a lot more occupied by Rengar, really, who already does it pretty well, which means that Evelynn needs something different, She's going to need a new mechanic that makes her stealth a lot more dynamic, which is going to make it so that Evelynnn players are going to have to put more thought into the strategy before they go for a kill, which should also both reward Evelynnn players who pull off these strategies, while maybe giving the enemy champions a little bit better of a chance to outplay her as well. So there's a couple ideas and maybe suggestions, I guess, in terms of giving Evelynnn a more dynamic version of stealth that have kind of been floating around, and a lot of players are theory crafting, but overall, it's likely that she's going to get some changes to her stealth that make it so that it's a lot more dynamic, to where it's not just, oh, she just happens to bypass every single ward in the game, but then also kind of uses it in a weird way during combat. So, because, the permanent stealth of Shadow Walk is really the main reason that Evelynnn is fairly unfun to play against. So changing it in a way that's maybe a little bit more of like a toggle or more of like a versatile or dynamic effect is something that could be a pretty fair way to fix that problem. And overall, the stealth is likely to get a redesign that really favors players who can plan out their engagements and position properly and focus down the right target. And it's also likely going to create a lot more counterplay for opponents. On the other hand, though, she also needs a lot more additional tools to be able to function as an assassin champion. If you think about it, what are the true elements of a more traditional sort of assassin character? The first, and something that I believe is probably the most important, is that assassins are mobile. Every assassin in the entire game is extremely mobile. They're hyper mobile almost. Evelynnn is not that though, so whether or not she's going to get some mobility sort of spell, you can't say for sure, because the thing is that her stealth almost acts as a way that covers up her mobility problems in a sense. So it's likely that she's probably going to get some damage increases to her overall kit. And as well with assassins, another thing that's pretty stereotypical of assassins in League that you might not consider is that assassins are actually very squishy. If you lock them down, that's kind of the counterplay of an assassin. You crowd control them instantly and you just burst them down because they die pretty fast. And that's, as a result, she's probably going to become less tanky. But the trade-off is that assassins, pretty much every assassin has an escape as a result of the fact that they're pretty squishy. That's kind of like how assassins work in general. So she's also probably going to get some form of maybe in-combat stealth, or I guess maybe her form of mobility could be used as an escape too. That's another option for introducing that into her kit. But those are like the stereotypical things that you see on every assassin champion really in League, and those are not entirely present on Evelynnn right now. Another thing that we know for sure that will be changing is her ultimate, Agony's Embrace. Assassins are really just meant to take out like a single target, but Evelynn's ultimate at the moment honestly kind of just rewards waiting until the enemy team's grouped up and then using it to engage on everyone. And on top of that, it's percent health damage, which is ideal for tank killing maybe. And it also does this counterintuitive thing in terms of assassination, which is make Evelynnn really tanky in the process. So not only does it kind of fail to help her burst down targets, it also makes her a lot tankier, which is pretty much as far away from an assassin ability as you could possibly get, really. And it's quite likely that Evelynnn will receive an entirely new ultimate, probably. Maybe something that's more damage focused instead of being a defensive tool, maybe something that's only single target instead of being area of effect, so that it can actually function as an assassination tool. Eve's scaling is meant to be in the form of AP though, so she's probably going to lose her physical damage scaling as well in favor of more magical damage based. She might keep a little bit of AD scaling though, so that she works well with the hybrid items like Gunblade or something like that, since they do kind of encourage a play pattern that is similar to what Riot wants for Evelynnn. But since Riot want Evelynnn to match up a lot better with her theme as an assassin in general, we can definitely expect a really cool rework that's going to reward some very strategical play, some very high intelligence sort of plays rather than just doing flashy stuff for kills that you would maybe do with some of the other assassins in the game right now. Anyway, if you guys have any cool ideas for changing Evelynnn from maybe a diver into more of a proper assassin champion, definitely let us know in the comments below. And looks like that's gonna be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.